Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. We're looking at a brilliant, highly philosophical continuation of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's classic masterpiece. This source text, called The Third Part of Faust, explores the ultimate fate of a soul that literally refuses to rest. It picks up exactly where Goethe left off, with Faust finally arriving in paradise. But as you might guess, instead of just settling down into eternal peace, our guy does what he does best. He starts causing problems.
So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. What actually happens when the ultimate striver reaches paradise? I mean, how do you satisfy a soul that is entirely defined by its own relentless dissatisfaction? If heaven is supposed to be infinite, does that mean the striving can be infinite too? Or is the soul just expected to, sit down and be quiet for the rest of eternity? This core tension completely upends everything we traditionally think about the afterlife.
To really get why this is such a massive deal, we have to jump back to the original rules of the game and this super famous quote, "Linger a while, thou art so fair." Remember, this was Faust's original wager with the devil, Mephistopheles. The deal was essentially this. If Faust ever found a single moment in his life so perfect, so unbelievably satisfying that he wanted to freeze it in time and make it stay forever, boom, he'd lose his soul. So he spent his entire earthly life running from that kind of stillness.
Section 1, The Problem with Paradise. We start our journey by looking at the sheer chaos Faust is causing up there. Because, let's be honest, a guy whose whole identity is wrapped up in endless forward momentum doesn't exactly gel with eternal resting. Heaven is supposed to be incredibly peaceful, right? But Faust's arrival has introduced what the angels call celestial tinnitus. It's this persistent low-level frequency generated by a soul that just will not stop poking at the boundaries of the universe. He's not doing it to be a jerk or anything. He literally just doesn't know how to exist any other way.
And how long has he been keeping this up? 30 celestial years. He spent 30 years frantically avoiding a specific place called the quiet sphere. Why? Because that's where Gretchen is. Gretchen is the woman whose life he totally destroyed back on Earth. Now, she's actually forgiven him, but Faust is terrified. He's scared that if he finally faces her and finds actual stillness, he might experience that one perfect moment. And if he accidentally asks it to linger, well, he might lose his eternal wager, even while sitting right there in heaven.
Section 2. Heaven's bureaucracy of light.
So, to avoid the quiet, and definitely to avoid Gretchen, Faust throws himself into the absolute last thing you'd ever expect to find in paradise: administrative committees. Yeah, the text portrays the lower spheres of heaven as having this massive bureaucracy, with standing committees, subcommittees, just endless debates. He actually stumbles upon the Grand Reconciliation Forum. This is a heavenly committee that has been on an indefinite recess for 800 long years, completely deadlocked on a single agenda item with zero idea how to move forward.
And what exactly is causing an 8th century deadlock? Well, we've got two philosophical heavyweights in an eternal standoff. In one corner, there's Thomas Aquinas, arguing that the divine is a noun, a static, perfect being. In the other corner, we have the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, who insists the divine is a verb, constant process, flux, always becoming. They've been stuck in this room for 800 years, completely unable to agree on the fundamental grammar of God.
In true Faustian fashion, our protagonist just waltzes right in and totally disrupts centuries of debate. He asks the ultimate question: what if they're both right? What if God is actually the active irresolution between both noun and verb? He proposes that the divine is a living paradox, holding both concepts in tension without just collapsing them into some boring compromise. By throwing this idea out there, he accidentally restarts the entire forum, waking up contemplatives all across heaven and setting off a massive chain reaction.
Section 3. The quantum theology twist.
So, Faust's disruption completely awakens the spheres. But the vocabulary of the 16th century isn't really enough to explain what he's actually doing to the fabric of heaven here. We need a modern mind to truly grasp the mechanics of his celestial journey. Enter Dr. Elena Vasquez. She's a newly arrived 21st century theoretical physicist who realizes that quantum mechanics maps perfectly onto Faust's quest for meaning. She focuses heavily on quantum superposition, that pre-differentiated state where all possibilities are present simultaneously until they're observed. Elena realizes this perfectly describes the highest levels of the divine.
Elena guides Faust, and really all of us, through this stunning realization. First, she points out that physics completely breaks down at the boundary of the divine. Second, at that specific boundary, the observer and the observed actually merge. The universe is literally asking itself what it is. And third, this is the beautiful part, The only thing that can collapse infinite quantum possibility into reality is the specific subjective act of love. Love is the ultimate measurement that turns what might be into what is.
This brings us to a concept Elena calls the minimum viable set of the universe. We basically have three completely different approaches to the divine working together. Faust goes outward and upward through active striving. Gretchen goes inward and downward through deep, quiet contemplation. And Elena moves laterally, mapping all the connections through science and mathematics. The text is essentially positing that a self-aware universe requires all three of these irreducible perspectives to fully understand itself without collapsing. It's like a giant cosmic puzzle.
Section 4. The Ultimate Celestial Wager.
Armed with this incredible new understanding, our trio pushes toward the highest architecture of heaven, where the Archangels are waiting for them. Faust is pushed to the absolute edges of the cosmos, and they present him with a brand new set of tests. Can you push past the given without breaking? Does the act of striving destroy the striver? And ultimately, will you finally declare absolute satisfaction? They're basically testing whether a soul that struggled and fought its way all the way to grace can maintain its unique, messy humanity while reaching out to touch the infinite.
But then, the highest authority of all, the voice of the structure, poses the absolute heaviest question of the whole journey. Can the creator know the creator without becoming the creator? Think about that. If you fully merge with the divine, if the drop of water finally rejoins the ocean, do you lose that specific, beautiful humanity that makes you who you are? Is it a tragedy to lose your individuality to God, or is it actually the ultimate fulfillment?
And this is where Elena steps in with a truly beautiful point. She says, the universe needs the one who asks. The cosmos doesn't just need the answers, right? It desperately needs the individual, irreducible perspective of the person asking the questions. If the map maker dissolves completely into the map, who is left to ask the next great question? Our specific, finite, perfectly flawed viewpoints are actually the tools the infinite universe uses to experience itself.
Section 5. A New Kind of Heaven.
By the end of this text, our entire concept of paradise, striving, and salvation has been turned completely upside down. Heaven is revealed not as some static, boring garden where you just sit around playing harps on clouds. Instead, it's kinetic architecture. It is a realm of infinite, fractal intellectual and spiritual challenge, and it's in constant motion. It's an endless journey of discovery, where the act of knowing is continuous and super active. Paradise isn't where you go when you're done, it's where you go when you're finally ready to begin at a cosmic scale.
So how does Faust's eternal wager actually resolve? Well, he goes back to the quiet sphere and, at long last, finds a moment of pure stillness with Gretchen. He recognizes its absolute beauty, but crucially, and this is the real game changer, instead of shouting, "Linger a while, thou art so fair," he just lets it pass into the next moment, without trying to trap it. He finally realizes that capturing the moment would kill it. The actual beauty is in the flow.
As the Archangel Raphael explains to Faust, the note that tries to last forever is not music, it is noise. Man, that hits hard. The true beauty of existence is your participation in the ongoing harmony, not pausing the song. By letting that perfect moment go, Faust actually wins the cosmic wager. He proves that the absolute highest form of humanity is loving something enough to let it continue.
The really crucial takeaway here is how much this realization changes him. Faust returns to the lower spheres, and for the first time ever, he's able to just sit still and listen to an ordinary baker talk about baking bread. He realizes the universe needs both the baker's bread and the physicist's equations. He proves that the divine is found just as much in humble, daily tasks and quiet acts of care as it is in the absolute highest intellectual pursuits or cosmic striving. It's all connected.
So, I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. If heaven is an infinite journey of discovery, what is your next question? If arriving is really just a new beginning, what edge of your own universe are you going to push against next? Because according to this amazing text, the universe is just waiting for you to ask. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and whatever you do, keep asking questions.